仲良く
大鳥教授くんだ。クォーツの首席らしいよ。
素人ばか
With so many Otome games localized by publisher Axis, it's easy to assume that many focus on Idea Factory developed titles. And while there are plenty of titles yet to receive a Western release, it's always good to see one from a different team. This is what initially grabbed my attention about their release of the Broccoli-developed Jeanne. From the creators of the Uta no Prince Sama series, fans get to experience a title by Seo Ishida, the artist behind the series Tokyo Ghoul, with scenarios from Shin Tawada, the writer behind Tokyo Ghoul's novelization. If you were hesitant to explore an Otome game from a different developer, Jeanne will easily open your eyes to an entirely new experience within it. Before we get into the review, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters for making this possible. Please take a second to check out patreon.com/noisypixel to support independent game journalism. Thanks for watching.
額の角度はこう。どうよ。
女性に迫られてるなんだか見ちゃいけないものを見てる。
今の
Jeanne begins its story with Keisha Tachibana, a young girl who loves to act with her brother, Suki Tachibana. She's always dreamed of attending Univille Drama School, a prestigious institution with over 300 years of history, especially after her brother was once known as the treasure of Univille. There's just one small problem, however. The school only allows male students to enroll, and those students must be able to act into male roles, known as Jacks, and female roles, known as Jeannes. Somewhat convinced that she'll never be able to attend the school, fate would have her run into the principal, who offers her the opportunity to enroll, but under 3 conditions. She must conceal her gender and pretend to be a boy, deepen bonds and connections with her classmates, and finally, lend a leading role on the Univille Performance Festival, which is held at the end of the school year. She is then assigned a Quartz, which is a class that primarily focuses on newbie students who have no prior acting experience. The prologue is over rather quickly, as Jeanne doesn't waste any time getting you into the main story. There are 6 love interests. Suzuo Orimaki, an energetic and dorky young man, Soshiro Yonaga, one of Kisa's childhood friends, Sarafumi Takeshina, a 3rd year who's great at dancing, Mitsuki Shiroda, a 2nd year who excels at singing, Kai Mutsumi, a friend of few words, and finally, Kokuta Neji, the rather eccentric director and scriptwriter of the Quartz. There's a special route where Kisa doesn't go for any of the 6 I just mentioned and instead chooses to spend the year honing her abilities. Still, when it comes to more traditional Otome, Jeanne differs on many levels. You see, contrary to contemporaries, about 80% of the story consists of the common route, with only a final chapter changing in accordance with the love interests you choose. In order to get into a certain love interest's route, you must deepen their affection by spending time with them on the weekends, but you should also take into consideration stats. Thankfully, the game makes it pretty easy to tell which stats to focus on because the love interests have color-coded name tags that match the color of the stats, and through the character menu you can see how much affection you have for them. To raise stats, you'll have to go to lessons. Each week you go through your school day training that specific stat, and on the weekends you can choose to hang out with your fellow students and deepen your bonds with them. The tutorial implies that the stats affect various facets of the game, but as far as I could tell, only 2 stats, which are voice and agility, make any difference, with the other 2 used to get closer to the love interest you wish to go for, as I mentioned. Once you've met the required conditions, you can unlock affection events, which lets you see the side of the character that you won't normally see. After viewing the event, an option opens up in the Furthermore. It's not only the love interest that you can hang out with, but also as you progress, you can choose to interact with the students from other classes, and they feature unique special events. In Univille, a school year consists of 6 performances, each of them consisting of dancing and singing segments. But if you thought you were just gonna sit down and watch them, think again. In dancing, you must press the required buttons when the icons overlap, and in singing, you must align the cursor by nudging it left and right with the shoulder buttons. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, this is a rhythm game. You can choose your difficulty, but regardless of which you pick, your ending will be determined by your rank. During my playthrough, even though there was practice options, it's a bit challenging due to the video playing in the background, and on certain performances, especially during singing, I ended up getting some misses and off timing because of how distracting it was. And no, there's no way to turn them off. At the end of the performance, you're graded based on the rating of each segment. This is followed by the individual performance awards, which run a quick stat check on Tachibana's parameters. It might sound scary, but if you balance the training and rest accordingly, you should be able to get a gold award rather effortlessly, especially since there's a small cutscene that will indicate to you when the current stat spread is already sufficient. The first playthrough takes a long time to complete, but sequential playthroughs are quicker because you can skip practice segments and some text. Still, you'll have to go through the dance and singing segments all over again. This does end up becoming a bit repetitive, but the amazing soundtrack makes up for it. While the character writing and overall plot have excellent pacing, there are some elements that hint at a sequel. There are certain subplots that are left unresolved, which leaves a few questions unanswered. Further, there are only 50 save slots, which is half of what usually Otome games have. Given the simultaneous systems, I had to regularly save, leading me to run out of them in the middle of my playthrough. But I might be the outlier here. The translation is decent, with only a couple of oddities that I encountered, such as punctuation issues and terms being mismatched with the Japanese voices. There's also an affection event where the choices presented are mismatched with what Kisa actually says. Furthermore, while the performance openings are subtitled, the music videos from the dancing and singing are not, and there's no way to view a lyric sheet anywhere in the gallery. After your first playthrough, all of the dancing and singing segments can be replayed from the gallery, and you can review any affection events, divided on a per character basis. This is also where you'll consult your trophies. Yes, Jeanne also has trophies, which is pretty cool as it incentivizes you to watch all of the endings and get an SS rank on the toughest difficulty. Jeanne is an amazing Otome experience that you won't want to put down. Still, repetition within some of the systems hurt the pacing on multiple playthroughs, and the narrative is practically begging for a sequel. However, it managed to keep me engaged, with some routes being an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Hopefully, we see Axis take more chances on these lesser-known Otome developers in the future. Noisy Pixel is giving Jeanne a 9 out of 10. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.